Hi guys, and welcome to checking whether a number is a solution to an equation or inequality. Now this is the first one, and you might notice that both of the problems that we have here are equations. But the reason that I wanted this to be the directions was because one of the biggest things that we see is that students will put that the answer is either equation or inequality. So you want to make sure that you're reading the directions very carefully. It doesn't say whether to tell whether it's an equation or inequality, but to check whether a number is a solution of an equation or an inequality, which means your answer is going to be either that the number is a solution or that the number is not a solution. So let's see what that looks like here. All right, so here we're checking whether 2 is a solution of something. And so what that means is we're going to plug this 2 in for the variable, and we're going to see if it gets us what we want. So in our first equation here, we've got 8x plus 4 equals 20. So that means that this x is going to become a 2, and then everything else is going to stay the same. So like we've done before in plugging numbers in with into expressions, we're going to go ahead and put that 2 in parentheses and have the 8 outside plus 4. And then when we put our equal sign, we're actually going to put a little question mark above it because we're not quite sure if it equals 20 yet. Oops, we need a 4 there. Equals 20, all right? So now we're actually going to do this multiplication out. So 8 times 2 is 16. So we end up now with 16. And then everything else comes down, remember. Plus 4. Maybe equals 20. Again, we have that question mark because we haven't shown quite yet that that's definitely true. And then our final step here, we're going to do 16 plus 4, and indeed 16 plus 4 is 20, and so we end up with 20 equals 20, and this time we don't need a question mark above our equal sign because we know that 20 does equal 20. So this, what we got right here, is true. That is true that 20 equals 20. And so our answer is that 2 is a solution. Okay? So true is not quite the answer, right? True is how we know what the answer is. So 2 is a solution is our actual answer to this problem. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at number 2 here. Now you might have guessed that the answer is going to be that 2 is not a solution, and you're right, but let's go ahead and look at why that is. Okay, so same thing here. We're going to start in exactly the same way. We're going to plug in a 2 for that x, so we've got that 2 in parentheses, and then everything else stays the same. We're going to have a 3 outside, that minus 5, and then maybe equals 12 with a little question mark above there because we're not quite sure yet. Alright, same thing. We're going to do out this multiplication. 3 times 2 is 6, and everything else is going to come straight down. So we've got minus 5, again, maybe equals 12, and then 6 minus 5 is going to give us 1. Well, 1 does not equal 12. That is a lie. That is false. So we're going to say, since we got that 1 equals 12, this doesn't make any sense. So we're going to say real big here, false. Okay, that if it's false, then instead of 2 being a solution, 2 will not be a solution. So our answer for this one is 2 is not a solution. And again, the way that we knew that is when we plugged it in, we ended up with our last statement being something that was false. Now be careful, because if you don't bring everything down, if you don't follow exactly these steps, then you're not going to end up necessarily with this last step here where you either get something that's true, like in number 1, where we got that 20 equaled 20, or something that's false, where we got like 1 equals 12. So it's very important that you make sure that you bring down everything every time on both sides of the equation.